Have you ever noticed how painted images are all around us? That's where I come in. I'm a curator at an art gallery. I choose paintings for people to look at, and I'm on a mission to show you why looking is worth it, to show you why painting matters. It can challenge you, play with you, and even lift your soul. Come with me on this journey through art and you'll see the world through new eyes. Visiting museums and galleries can be overwhelming. Too much noise, too many visitors, not enough time. The biggest danger is that you go home feeling underwhelmed by the art. The most intimate way to experience a painting is to live with one. You catch it on different days and in different moods, and it catches your eye when you least expect it. But for most of us, this one-on-one encounter happens out there, in galleries and in museums, amidst crowds and all sorts of other distractions. So how do we go about finding that intimate moment with a painting in a public place? To find out, I've come to Dunedin, a place where I learned a few golden lessons about getting the most out of paintings in big public galleries and museums. It seems to be some kind of rule. Show me a great river and I'll show you a great museum. There's the Thames in London, right beside Tate Modern. Big river, big museum. Then there's the Seine in Paris, right beside the Louvre. Big river and an even bigger museum. And the mighty Leith in Dunedin, only a stone's throw from the Hocken Library. The Hocken doesn't have crowds or cafes. It sure isn't on any tourist trail, but it is hands down one of my favourite places to go looking. A small building with a small collection of paintings that punch above their weight. But that's not the only thing that makes rummaging in this collection so rewarding. Pull out any one of these racks and duds sit next to masterpieces. There are no wall labels here to preempt your responses to tell you how you're meant to feel. And the alphabetical ordering, which runs right along this big corridor of racks, sometimes throws up the kind of dreamlike juxtapositions that no curator would ever dare to make. This polite flower painting seems to be having a fever dream in the form of this self-portrait by Philip Clermont. What should you think? No one's telling you. You're free to make your own mind up. The Hocken constantly yields unexpected encounters between you and artists you don't know, and encounters with little-known gems by really well-known artists, from A through Z, an alphabet of challenges and surprises. Now, things get really good up around the letter H, where we have a whole bank of paintings by Geoffrey Harris, including this unforgettable work called Two Lovers. Every time I'm here, it stops me. Why? This idyllic landscape out the window, cauliflower trees, tangerine sky, and in the foreground, this surgically vivid couple of lovers, bound together in one knot of muscle. Is it grotesque or is it beautiful? It's both. It's one intense work. And Geoffrey's just one of many major New Zealand artists hiding in these racks. That's the great lesson this collection teaches. Be hungry, be curious and rummage. You have the chance to get up close and personal with over 60 works by Colin McCann, the whole career in this small space. It's rare to be able to get so close to paintings by such a celebrated artist without a crowd looming over my shoulder. Here, however, you can feel your way closely into his art, and the paintings leap into focus. Gritty, handmade, homemade things. And for me, a painting that really sums up the Hocken experience is this student work by McCann, a rope relief, and clearly it's not a major work. But how vividly it sums up a period, a moment in New Zealand art, the sense that art is something that's made from the bits and pieces at hand, that's magpied from the world around you. The lessons of the Hocken. Look independently, look curiously, look closely. But the Hocken, let's face it, is not an ordinary gallery-going experience. The museums of the world are bigger and busier. So I want to find out if the lessons of this little building can be put to good use inside them. But there's one more lesson I need before stepping inside a big museum. Who to ask for frontline advice? Easy. Ask an artist.
Hello, John.
Justin, you good?
I'm very good. Nice to see you.
Nice
Thanks
to
for
see you.
having us.
John Reynolds isn't just one of New Zealand's best artists, he's one of our best art appreciators. His paintings buzz with quotations and homages, visual high fives and shout outs to the art he's seen in museums and then responded to in paint.
So do you think artist fans behave differently than the average gallery goer who's cruising around a museum? Could you spot one in a museum?
Oh, I think I could. I mean, Justin, I think it's that mixture of generally they come in with a lot more. They're more robust around work in the sense that they're more familiar and critical, and they're also probably more engaged in terms of being loved up about a work. So you get those simultaneously. You'll get disrespect and big respect, and you're more likely to get an artist who'll want to reach in and sniff the work. And I actually say sniffing because you actually want to get beyond that safe distance. And I think that is what any artwork's wanting to do.
Call that the first of Reynolds' rules for museum going. Get close enough to the painting to smell it. And what if, once you get that close, you can't leave it alone?
Every time I get to go to Britain, I make a point of scurrying up the stairs of the National Gallery, and there's this, on a little plinth, all by itself, is a tiny little work called the Wilton Diptych. You know, it's an 800-year-old religious work. This has a deliciously complicated pull for me. Every time I think I can be clear about what it does to me, I'm not so sure. And I've visited it many times, and as you accumulate an experience of going back and going back, it's like you're pecking at an old relationship in some way. You're wanting to test the pull of it. In fact, it's what I'm claiming is a very, an intense private experience in a very public space.
Yes.
But it's got that grabbability, which I love. It's, it's literally a couple of A4 sheets, and I could slam it shut and I'll be out the door into Piccadilly Circus before the guards could get me.
Here's another of Reynolds' rules. Look hungrily. Approach a museum like an artist with that greedy desire for something that feeds the eye and mind. And if you're drawn to a painting, visit and revisit it. Probe and test it. Treat the museum like you own the place, which, since a museum is a public space, you sort of do. And with that in mind, let's take on New Zealand's biggest museum, Te Papa. Wellington, New Zealand's cultural capital. Maybe. We've learned a lot about looking at paintings in museums. Now it's time to put it to the test. What's the chance of an intimate encounter with a painting in the biggest museum around?
I remember coming here to the opening of Te Papa in 1997, and I've come back regularly ever since, and I've got to say it is a building I am still trying to learn to love. There's a famous line about architecture that says that it's frozen music. Well, Te Papa is frozen something. I'm not sure what. But it should be possible for me to get through this episode without saying what a butt-ugly building it is. Here goes.
Te Papa bulks large, its high walls blocking waterfront winds. A world away from the cosy Hocken. But when a museum's big, it can attract big names. It can stage those strange events known as blockbusters. And when it comes to blocks and the artists who bust them, no one does it like Impressionist painter Claude Monet.
And of course, whenever a Monet show comes to town, the puns break out. The headline writers can't resist it. Shake your Monet maker. Monet makes the world go round. We're in the Monet. And who wouldn't come up with puns like that, given that Monet is the guy voted most popular artist of the 20th century, the guy who sold a painting at Christie's Europe not so long ago for $114 million, which is just silly.
Those numbers aren't the only things that get in the way when you're trying to get to know this painter. Monet's got what big institutions want, brand power. So you know you won't be getting near the art before encountering a sales pitch. Monet t-shirts, Monet postcards, Monet keyrings. No water lily ashtrays, but
These must be money bags.
and for that special someone in your life, there's even Monet body silk.
As used by all of the Impressionists.
That'll be quite enough of that. Another trusty rule for museum going: spend your energy on the real thing. Hang on, Claude, I'm on my way. Kind of. Here's a sight to make the time-strapped gallery goer sigh. Keen to get personal with Claude Monet? Please join the queue.
You would have seen a few good ones already.
Queues outside mean crowds inside. One trusty trick is to skip the bottleneck in the first room and plough through to the later spaces where the crowds thin out. The thing is, Monet didn't paint these works to be visited once in a gallery. They were meant to live on domestic walls and be absorbed over days and years. The hype round blockbusters makes us expect to be ambushed by genius immediately. But painting never works like that. It's crucial to wander and wonder for a while, not to rush into an opinion. I've done my recce and 2 paintings are singing out above all the others for a longer look. Here's an opening in front of the first one. Haystacks. Now the key to getting past the hype is to get close to the painting. Forget the picture on the billboard, forget the photographs in the catalogue. Address the work as an actual, handmade, sticky thing. And one of the great and obvious things to say about getting close is that when I'm here in front of this painting by Monet, I am standing where he stood, and I can imagine reaching out and touching the surface of that painting with a brush. And I can see what a nervous and agitated kind of painter he was. You sense him working against the clock with paint that was always thickening, worrying at the layers, stirring and dragging with both ends of the brush until achieving this amazing surface. Gluey, gooey, and nearly phosphorescent. And I love this stuff. The cracks in the surface of the painting, the texture of the strokes. They're like the character lines on the face of art. Step back and it settles into an extraordinary end-of-day vision. The whole haystack bristling with light. This is what you learn when seeing Monet up close. That great art can also be light, and never more than in ruined cathedral. We all know about cathedrals, lofty religious structures, and we know that God and light are meant to go together. Now, Monet looks at this facade, and he sees the light, but not in a Hail Hosanna way. He celebrates the ordinariness of light. Ordinarily in a painting, yellow comes forward and blue recedes. But what Monet does in this painting is flips the order round. So the parts of the building that are closest to us are blue, but it's the light, the yellow sections, which are coming through from behind. And the effect is to make it seem as if this entire structure is being atomized from behind. The light is coming through and it's dissolving this huge, stony, official structure. And that's enough to send me out of this huge structure to Papa, feeling a bit lighter on my feet. What I've learned is that looking is about discovery. 1,000 billboards announcing Monet's greatness don't count unless you've seen it, discovered it for yourself. And even at Te Papa, among dozens of paintings and decent crowds, I found my one-on-one with Monet. But now I want to try for this intimate moment somewhere even more challenging. A world-famous gallery where every wall is packed with must-see masterpieces. London. A horizon packed with culture. Old culture, gold culture, high culture, street culture. And amidst all this eye chatter and art chatter, I'm hoping to find a quiet moment with a painting or two.
For 200 years, London has been the place to come for your big museum experience. So big, it can seem daunting. But remember this, when you step inside these huge vaults of art, you're not expected to read every wall label in order or follow the official tour. You're an active participant in the life of art. Museums don't come alive until we viewers arrive on the scene. Now, some of my earliest memories of going to museums are of having sore legs, from making your way there and then pounding all those gallery floors. So here's a further bit of advice. Take a taxi right to the front door.
And the front door I'm heading toward is one of London's biggest. It's Tate Moderns.
What strikes me every time I come here is how big the Tate Modern is. It's beyond big, it's mega. And the challenge for the solo viewer is how do you try and take on a beast this big? So here's a tip. Take a friend and, wherever possible, let that friend be an artist.
Artists have already given us some great advice about looking at paintings in museums. And while not everyone knows an artist they can take along, Sarah Hughes is in town and we're taking on the Tate together.
Hi, how you doing?
Sarah makes paintings that spill way beyond the surface of single canvases. From walls swarming with digital dots to a stony terrace striped with colour, Sarah has a talent for injecting life and energy into big, bland institutional spaces. She's the perfect person to help me tackle this super-sized museum.
This place had 5 million visitors in its first year. Not all of them were artists. Why do you, as an artist, come to this place? What do you want from it?
Because I want to see the work firsthand. I want to have that experience of standing up next to it or in it or walking around it. I think that's always different than looking at reproductions.
So how do you make the most of your limited time in these enormous spaces?
What I do is think beforehand if there's particular works that I want to see or maybe revisit, because I just can't take on everything anymore. It makes more sense to see one painting well instead of to see a whole lot in a rush and not really feel like you've seen anything.
Sarah's advice is spot on. Time is short and the Tate goes on forever, so we're off to find one painting each and see it well, rather than rush past hundreds and pay none of them any real attention.
Pretty phenomenal space, isn't it?
But there's some noisy competition for our attention right inside the door. The Turbine Hall, a super-sized space for super-sized artworks. This recreation of Robert Morris's 1971 installation Body, Space, Motion Things just can't be ignored.
This is the face of the modern museum, Sarah. What do you reckon? Do you want to get in there?
Yeah, I want to go with the ball.
I mean, if you had a painting up in the gallery itself, would you be a bit miffed that there's so much distracting carry-on in the foyer? You know, sort of drowning out the quietness of painting?
Yeah, but I think painting can be quite loud as well. It can be kind of rude, it can be brash.
As a curator, you know, I've got to say I feel in two minds. You know, on one hand, awesome. People in the gallery going nuts with it. And at the same time, I think that many of my big museum experiences were almost in empty galleries.
Yeah, but at the same time, maybe the people that are down here interacting with this will go upstairs and think about it in a different kind of way than maybe if they just walked into a very quiet room. Here, they're expressing with their voices and their bodies and they're kind of relating to these spaces that have been created.
We should escape before I get too old for this installation.
Now, what are we here for again? Oh yeah, painting. Time to resume the challenge. Head straight on in and you may stagger out hours later with a chronic case of museum fatigue.
Should find out where our works are going to be.
So, first step, plot the path to your painting.
This is the painting I wanted to point out to you. Lichenstein's Wham from 1963.
This is one of the most famous works in the Tate collection, isn't it?
There's something about his work that I always keep coming back to as well. I think that there's a relationship with my work in terms of like that graphicness and that kind of use of a controlled way of painting.
Lichtenstein's a pop artist, which sounds kind of bubbly and fun, but is it a political painting, do you think? I mean, made in the Vietnam War and shows an American flyboy blowing the opponents out of the sky?
For me, maybe this kind of imagery is more to do with American culture of this kind of time, not just the possibilities of speed and new technologies and all those sorts of things as well.
So he's taken an image from a comic and blown it up, but how has the work itself been made?
He's hand-painted it. If you look up close, you can see all the little dots. Each one is a little bit individually different. It's not a screen-printed or digital print.
And this, again, proves your point about the need to come and see the things in the flesh, because it's fascinating over here that you can actually see some of the original pencil drawing on the canvas.
It reminds me that it is actually still a painting.
I like how artists talk in museums. They're like hungry people in a supermarket, on the lookout for fresh stuff to fuel them. Any museum ought to make the ordinary world look fresher, stranger, bigger. But art doesn't have to be big to do that.
OK, this is us. I've chosen Pablo, sort of king of the canon of modern art. It's a weeping woman from 1937, and I've chosen it because in a big building, I think it proves that small can be powerful. Every time I come back here, It sort of clamps itself onto the imagination.
Yeah, it has a real freshness to it, doesn't it?
The thing that bugged people about Picasso was the fact that he didn't paint the world realistically. You know, he broke it up into cubes and facets. But I think that's what makes it so emotionally engaging, because as you look, you see this face which is sort of breaking down and you have to piece it back together yourself. So he gets you involved.
And there's something quite powerful about the almost monochromatic blue and white in the middle, but then surrounded by all this sort of complementary colour clashing to make your eye move around the space, I think. So even though it's a very tortured and fragmented kind of image, there's still the understanding of composition.
And actually what it reminds me of, above all, is stained glass. You have that luminosity in the colour and that thick black bounding line. And stained glass gets you thinking about churches and all those old images of Mary weeping in biblical scenes. And in some sense, this is like a 20th century Mary. I mean, it's not a work I would say that I like, and I don't think it wants to be liked. Do you think art has to like us back, that it's obliged to radiate some kind of warm feeling?
No, not at all. I think there's a range of reasons artists make art, and I think that people respond and react to art in different ways depending on their own experiences. I think that's why as artists we keep pushing those boundaries, and hopefully as viewers why we come back and keep looking.
There are hurdles and distractions on the way to paintings in today's big museums, but those intimate moments of looking are still there for the taking. Painting lives in many public spaces, small and utterly silent, or stupendously big and gagging with tourists. Either way, what matters most is not the space housing the painting, but the headspace, the quality of attention that you bring to it.
So what is a museum? It's a kind of paradox. It's a public space for private, intimate encounters. It's a place where big crowds converge to talk and wonder and debate about what really matters. It's a place to visit other worlds, try on other eyes, see the world from a new perspective. And all of that can happen in a big building in a big city or a small building in a small town. What matters is that having been inside, you come out, find your sense of the world expanded, and then take that experience home with you.